Hello, welcome to the Cyborg here at the StarCityGames.com Players Championship 2016 edition. I'm Nick Miller alongside Kevin Jones of Metagame Gurus. Players
How's
Championship number 3 for the daddy.
Yeah.
How you feeling?
Good, a little tired last night, but deck choices are good, I think. Definitely Modern is going to be fun.
Right, as you can see, we're going
Creature
to be
of
doing
Habit.
Kevin Jones' Modern deck here. A deck you put on the map back in Dallas when you won the Modern Open, Grixis Delver, taking it down. Went on to play it at multiple events after that, including the World Magic Cup.
I think it's a little unfair to say that I put it on the map because your own coverage team member, Ryan Overturf, top-8'd with it in Indianapolis a few weeks before Dallas, and that's where I got the idea from.
Well, if he was standing right here, I'd give him credit. But
Yeah, no.
you know, Kevin
You don't have
Jones.
to give him credit.
Let's take a look at this deck because it has been taking over Modern, doing very well, winning RPTQs, winning Opens, top-8ing, that kind of stuff. Delver's Secrets number 1, Snapcaster Mage number 2. These are your threats.
Yeah, I mean, the threats are basically Delver and the 2 Young Pyromancer and Tassiger, which is on the next slide. But Snapcaster Mage doubles as answer and threat because, like, when you're 1-for-1ing, like, the leftover 2-1, just hit them for a couple times, like, you know, them being at 6 less life or whatever makes a lot of your cards better. The conditional removal and stuff like that.
Yeah, when I talked to Ryan about the deck back when he top-8'd with it, he's like, this is a Snapcaster Mage deck. It just happens to have Delver of Secrets.
It definitely is a Snapcaster Mage deck.
All right, so we'll move on because these are our usual threats. Then we got our Delve threats, cheating in super big creatures for 1 or 2 mana. You got Gurmag Angler, but then 3 Tassiger here in the Modern version, whereas the Legacy version kind of goes for Gurmag because you don't want Karakas messing with your Tassiger.
Yeah, and also, like, the Legacy kind of... The Delve thing is, like, not really concerned in Legacy. The cards fill up much longer, and the, you know, you're not taxing Delve as much with other things as well, so paying 6 once is usually fine. But Tassiger being, you know, cheaper means that most of your hands where you have a Tassiger and a Thought Scour, you can cast it on turn 2, and sometimes you can even do it without a Thought Scour if you have, like, 2 fetch lands and, you know, something like that. But yeah, and a probe or something like that. But Tassiger is great. And you'd play 4, except it's a legend, so you play 1 angler.
So we have enough Delve threats here. These are kind of your big, heavy hitter creatures to go along with your early ones.
The 1 Brutality helps fuel Delve a little bit as well. It's kind of like a 5th Thought Scour in that it puts 2 things in your graveyard. You like need most of the cards in your hand most of the time, so usually it only escalates once. But against Burn, you can trade the cards that you're never going to get out of your hand anyway for an additional mode on that, so you will discard both things again. You kill your guy, take your burn spell, and gain 2 life or whatever.
Yeah. Having this card in the main deck just gives you this little bit of extra help against burn when you have it, and that's super important.
It also does things that the rest of your deck can't really do. Like it provides hand disruption, but the thing about hand disruption, that's a bad top deck. But this is hand disruption that also is removal and also is reach. So it's a much better top deck than Inquisition of Kozilek or something like that.
Sure.
It's great against the red-green Scapeshift deck, too.
So here we have our blue Cantrips. You know, these are basically card filtering, card selection, filling up your graveyard all at once.
Yeah, Scour doubles as kind of card advantage because of the 4 Snapcaster Mages. So, like, to find the first piece of interaction... or the second piece of interaction when, like, you cast 1 and Snapcaster finds, like, a mana leak. It's like, you can play 2 mana leaks, and you're more likely to draw 2 mana leaks, or more likely to draw 1 because of 4 Thought Scour, because you can, on turn 4, Snapcaster the mana leak. You don't actually have to draw it. It's like drawing 3 cards in as much as that it gives your graveyard some added utility. Also the best thing for Delve, obviously.
Sure. Serum Visions is, you know, the best sort of cantrip we have. Gitaxian Probe allows you to see your opponent's hand, gets you that information, fills up your graveyard.
The probe count keeps going down and down in subsequent tournaments, and I worry that it's a mistake having it in the deck at all. But the draws where you have Young Pyromancer and a probe just feel like they put your opponent so far behind. And probe's important a lot because you have counter spells that lose value after a certain point, so the cost of leaving them up and the cost of leaving the counterspells up can be a real thing in the early game, like turns 1 through 3. So like you want to be able to vision, scour, or delver if you don't have to spell snare. But if you have to spell snare, you have to spell snare. So it's good to know.
Yeah, gives you the idea of how you can play your hand from that point.
Yeah, losing, them resolving something with a counterspell in hand is really bad because it's like going down a card or what have you.
And Spell Snare, as I mentioned, Mana Leak is your extra counterspell. Colligan's Command, just a real all-star in this deck. You really get to use all the modes.
Mana Leak is a catch-all, and Colligan's Command is kind of a catch-all in the same way that, like, if the game plays out in, like, a normal fair deck way, Colligan's Command is just going to break. It's just like, kill your thing or make you discard, get back my Snapcaster Mage, and then Snapcaster, get back my Snapcaster Mage, and it's just over.
Yeah, you present a loop, basically.
Exactly. You represent the loop, and you say, I'm going to do this for a while.
Yeah. Can you deal with this card advantage? I don't think so.
It's ridiculous. Yep. Colligan's Command is also one of the ways to beat the stupid Lantern deck that is really frustrating to play against. And it has main deck Artifact Destruction, which, again, does something that the rest of your deck doesn't do, which is important. And you can make them discard their last card, which sometimes matters too, because you have enough early interaction and threats that you can get most of the cards out of their hand when you're playing the game.
Yeah.
So their last card often is important.
Giving you a little plus life equity by not losing to Lantern.
Yeah, it does two things too.
Now we got our removal spells. Murder's Cut, another delve spell here. Yep. Terminate, just kind of the best answer for everything. Mm-hmm. And then Dismember here.
Yeah, cheap. This is like an interesting situation because it used to be 3 Terminate at the first juncture, but I'm pretty sure almost every fair deck in Modern that plays, or Legacy for that matter, that plays black mana and interacts with creatures should play a Murderous Cut. The first Murderous Cut is pretty free, and with 8 fetches, 4 Scours, and a Brutality, I think, and Probes too.
Sure.
I think the first cut is pretty free, and it's a whole lot better than Eidolon against Eidolon than Terminate.
Yeah.
The Dismember is a last-minute inclusion because we thought a few people might actually play the Mirror in this tournament. I know that one person who I worked with is actually playing the Mirror. And then, I thought it was within Jim's range to play it too and that type of thing. So, the Dismember is good against other Delve creatures, and it's good because it's a removal spell that costs 1 when you need it to cost 1, and it costs 3 when you need it to cost 3, because usually you do fetch double black eventually. And because of that, it's good at being flexible there. And when you do take 4 from it, you likely would have taken 4 from the thing you're killing anyway. So it ends up being a mitigated drawback. And Terminate is just obviously a great rate. It's weird that Destroy Target Creature is not a more ubiquitous thing in Modern, but it isn't. You can't really afford to play more than 2. It's weird, but Terminate is very good at what it does.
Yep. All right, moving on here. More kill spells. Lightning Bolt, you got to have that in your Delver deck. Electrolyze gives you a little bit of card advantage while also giving you a way to kill multiple threats like an Infect or a Noble Hierarch creature.
Lightning Bolt is one of the de facto best cards in Modern. I mean, it's always in flux between Lightning Bolt and some of the other Tarmogoyf or whatever, a bunch of different cards. But Lightning Bolt is one of them, and the rate is unbeatable, and it's the best way to close the game. Snapcaster Mage, Lightning Bolt, Bolt, Snap, Bolt. It just makes the rest of your all your removal spells matter and stuff like that. So it's great. And Electrolyze is the 2 Colligan's Command, 1 Electrolyze is something that's been reversed for most of the year that I've been playing the deck. And now we're back to 2 Colligan's Command because I switched over going into the World Cup because of the presence. I expected a lot of Lantern, Affinity, and Infect at the World Cup. And Colligan's Command's better in those matchups. In the Open Series, I expect to play against Lingering Souls at least once or twice, and 2 Electrolyze is the best against Lingering Souls. Now we're down to 1 Electrolyze because I didn't expect a ton of Lingering Souls, and I shaved a Pyromancer in favor of a 3rd Spell Snare a couple weeks back, and when I did that, I wanted to have Colligan's Command to get back threats, to add a little bit more staying power to the deck, and for that reason, I'm at 2-1. Electrolyze is a great card, though. It helps you hit your 4th land drop, which is really important a lot of the time.
Speaking of lands, we've got our lands here. These are all, your blue fetches that are going to be getting your Steam Vents and your Watery Graves, and then, of course, you get access to the new fast lands, which we'll see on the next one. Spirebluff Canals goes along with your Darkslick Shores.
Yeah.
Pretty sweet.
The 61st card would be the 2nd Watery Grave, but, something's got to give. And I thought that the Darkslick Shores was better than the 2nd Watery Grave because you do want your Delve spells against burn, and it's important. It's nice to draw a black mana early against burn too, because if you fetch a basic land, it's better off being mountain than swamp. So you want your duel to tap for Tasigur, and you can do Tasigur and Lightning Bolt in the same turn.
Sure.
So that's why this Shores is in there.
Right, and there's your basics. Pretty simple. Moving on to the sideboard here.
2/1/1.
We got some more counter spells between Dispel, Engineered as Explosives at 1, but I think importantly here, 4 copies of Surgical Extraction. We saw you get eliminated from the top 8 of the last Modern Open.
By Dredge.
Took out very quickly. I think this is a concession to that.
I lost to Dredge twice at the World Cup as well. I lost to Dredge in the Invitational, the end of Modern, one of the 2 rounds that knocked me out of top 8 contention. Yeah, I wanted to say something, and then I realized that language is important to not say any expletives or anything on the deck text, so I didn't say that, but I hate Dredge so much. And this is a concession to that, while also being some added value against the Lantern deck with Academy Runes loops, and make sure that the first time you kill their bridges are all gone forever, which is super important. And then the other thing that it does, which is much more narrow, is like play against Tron or like Scapeshift or something, you can like Thought Scour them if you don't need to Thought Scour yourself, and then Surgical Extraction if you get super lucky and hit a Tron land or a Valakut or something like that. It just gives you some interaction against a deck that you don't always have a ton of interaction against, like Tron. So you're boarding, you have a lot of dead cards anyway, so why not board it in and hope to, get them a little bit.
Have a little added value.
Yeah, Dispel, great against Burn, and yeah.
Now we got some more removal spell here with Magma Spray, Rakdos Charm, kind of a flex slot. This can kind of be your extra graveyard hate and do a little bit more.
Yeah, it's a graveyard hate spell that you can board in against Affinity or Lantern as well. And you can also board it in against the Sun and Moon deck if Todd Stevens decides to play it, because it hits Chalice and randomly could kill them because they made three Elspeth tokens for 3 turns.
Sure.
I lost to an Elspeth when he was at I see that being a possible way the game could play out, so it's worth boarding it against Chalice anyway. It's important that it costs 2 because it kills Chalice and doesn't dodge a Chalice on 1. Spray is the 5th Lightning Bolt effect. It's nice against Voice of Resurgence. It's a little bit of a liability against Infect, but you bring it in anyway because anything that kills something is better than not.
Exactly.
But it's a little bit scary against Mutagenic Growth, but I still like it. Brutality, again, very versatile. We already talked about why it's good. Yep.
Moving on.
Yeah.
Counter Squall. This is a card I believe Ryan, when he was playing the deck, had 3 or 4 of. He loved this card. And then, of course, you have Staticaster and some Painful Truths here as well.
He had Spell Pierces too. Something has to give with respect to the sideboard. The way that Modern works, you can't afford to beat anything. And here, we really, really didn't want to try to beat everything. We wanted to try to beat the specific things that were going to show up. So as a function of that, you see a sacrifice made with the amount of counter spells on the board. There's no Spell Pierce or no second Counter Squall, which have been in the deck in the past. There's only 1 Painful Truth because I didn't expect to play against, Mardu Planeswalkers or Jeskai or even Grixis Control or anything like that. So the 1 Truth is there for the Jund and Abzan matchups or the Mirror. And you don't hesitate to board in more than 1 anyway because it taxes you tax your own life total pretty highly. Staticaster, unbelievable against Infect and Affinity. One of the best cards in the format against the decks that rely on 1 toughness creatures. Poor Liam Lonergan and his elf army is going to have another thing coming. Staticaster comes in and wrecks his life, Obviously, you can see why that card is great. It's also nice in the Mirror because it kills Pyromancer tokens. It can kill Delvers, Snapcasters, and Pyromancers. Not having to spend a card on their Snapcasters is important, too.
All right.
So it's nice in that respect.
Wrapping things up, you got a Desolate Lighthouse and Pia and Kieran Nalar here.
Lighthouse
added
is
value for grinding.
Lighthouse is good to discard excess lands when you Painful Truths and draw fetches that may or may not have a target in the late game. So that's important. Also, anytime I have my mana untapped a lot, like Infect, Death's Shadow, something like that, I'll bring that in too so I can discard excess things and make sure I have interaction, and I'm not always paying a huge cost to leave my removal spells up. So that's important. And the Pia is a concession to the Fair deck. Specifically, we thought we could see 3 decks that were also the Mirror, and Pia is one of the best cards in the Mirror. It also, we cut a Vandal Blast to put the Pia in the deck, and the Vandal Blast blocks the Pia blocks Etch Champion, albeit a little bit more awkwardly, and provides some reach against Lantern too, and those things are nice. So that's why the Pia is the slot.
All right.
But yeah, thank you for
deck looks great.
Letting me talk as usual.
We know you like this deck. You've had success with it. We look forward to seeing it play it on day 1 of the Players' Championship.
I'm supremely confident in this format, as I am always, I guess. But yeah, we'll see what happens. I mean, it's possible that we get some rough ones, but I like it. So yeah.
All right. Kevin Jones, extremely confident in Modern. I'm Nick Miller. Thanks for joining me here in the Sideboard.
No problem.
StarCityGames.com for all the action here at the Players' Championship.